Hi, Tom.
Hey, Lee. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So am I right? You were able to do all the Zoom setting up without having to get IT involved or?
Correct.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
So I think everybody is participating.
I
tonight.
think you. Felicia said she wasn't going to make it, and then you had,
And Tim is unlikely.
correct.
Yep. But I know I've heard from Ruth and Taylor, Mike and Jerry. Do you have any sense for, is this likely to stay remote for a while? Do you have any sense?
No idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Because I know the speaker, Jim Curtis, and I get this, just has no great interest in doing a remote presentation. And I would like to have him speak sooner rather than later, but if we have to do this again next month remotely, I think he'll probably opt out again. Hey, I just got a text from Nancy Pelosi. Wow. No, she had my text. So I can see you, and I can see a Zoom screen. I don't.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I might log out and log back in.
Yeah.
I see Jerry as a, 4 panelists. I see Tom. I see Mike here, Jerry, and myself.
Yeah, I can't see.
The others?
I can't see the others. I can see that they're panelists.
Okay, hold on.
Can you see me?
Oh, there you are.
There's
Hey,
only,
Hi,
there's
Tom.
only 4 of us, right?
Hi, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There, I see Jerry.
Yep.
Jerry, are you back in Gloucester?
I am. And for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you, what is, my daughter actually is flying to Ireland this Friday, and it doesn't seem
Wow.
like you just need to sort of, I don't even know that she needs to take a test. I think if she's
Every country-
vaccinated and boosted, she's acceptable.
That's great. I mean, every country is different. I mean,
Yeah.
our experience, but it's now months old, was that it was easier to go over than it is to come back.
Yeah. And that has to do with testing or the state of affairs in the United States?
Well, both, but I was thinking specifically of testing. You've got to, they've changed it now to make it even harder, but when we were there, you had to take a PCR within, I think it was 3 days before you left or later.
Is that if you're not vaccinated or if you are?
Didn't matter,
Oh,
under any conditions. Now, I think with the same, I think the last thing I read is that you have to take a rapid test within, I'm not sure if it's a day or 24 hours, but anyway, not long before.
mhm.
So there's a much higher risk now that you won't get results in time.
Right.
And I don't even know she's going to County Donegal on the West Coast where my wife's family is from. And that's
Cool.
it's pretty remote. It's not like, sort of a big city where there's all sorts of testing, I would suspect, but who knows?
Yeah, it's really hard to predict. I mean, the one place I know best is Germany, and there it does vary a lot, but everybody's tightening up there. So you can't go into a restaurant without showing your vaccination card and stuff like that.
So can you, and I know Ruth is now on, can you see everybody else?
I can only see you, the person that's speaking, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay.
So bear with me.
Yeah.
Oh, if,
Sorry.
do you have a setting that allows you to see the gallery? You go to the upper right-hand side where it says view.
I don't see it. No.
Yeah, so I can,
Let me call up IT.
yeah, so that allows me to do that, but I'm still seeing Lee's screen, Zoom.
Yeah.
Who is sharing their screen? Is this Lee's screen?
I'm sharing the screen. Yep.
So hold on.
Because
you-
let me undo it until I need to share it, I guess, because Taylor had some things to share.
Oh, okay, yeah. So one thing you can do is you can set up screen sharing rights. Oh, did Taylor send you something to present?
No,
on your
no. I just let me get in touch with IT. I apologize. I'm a little rusty because I haven't been on Zoom in a while.
Okay,
But
so one thing that you could try, you could probably see, do you see a button that says security settings, like right down at the lower next to participants and raise hand and stop video?
no,
No? Okay.
I see mute, stop video, participants poll, new share, resume share,
Here's
annotate.
an idea. Is your participant list open on the right side? Can you click on participants and see who's participating?
I can see who's participating.
If you can you
Oh,
click on,
hold on.
sometimes you can make someone a host as well. Maybe that, I don't know if that's disabled, but that might help. Can you make Tom a co-host?
There's some restrictions on the city
Oh, okay. Right.
doing the things that we see in business.
Got it. That's probably one of the things you'd want to restrict to. Okay, never mind.
I mean, I think we can, it's not perfect, but I think we can start. Is that okay, Lee?
That's fine.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'll figure it out with IT, but you can, I guess, begin.
Yeah, because everybody can talk and we can participate. It's just that background screen, at least for me.
Right.
So, all right.
Thank you, Lee.
So let's get going. There's a certain protocol that apparently I'm supposed to read. So let me do that. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by Gloucester Economic Development and Industrial Corporation during this and future remote meetings will be by roll call vote. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or device, there is a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications. You recognize to speak. So with that, I call to order the meeting of the EDIC. I'm supposed to take a little roll call. So the following board members are present: Mike Talasio, Ruth Pino, Jerry Oppenheim. Also, we have as attendees Sal DiStefano from the city, or at least he was on, Chris McCarthy, Olivia Perez Odess from the chamber, and Stephen Saka at this point. And those, I think that Taylor will be joining us and other attendees will certainly be possible.
This is Sal. I am on.
Okay, great.
Tom, can you hear me? Tom, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Taylor, so I'm on. It's Taylor.
Okay, great. Taylor Hedges is on as well.
Yep.
First order of business, approval of past meeting minutes. If you recall, we did not approve the October 12th meeting minutes because I wanted to make some edits. So Lee has sent around the meetings for the October 12th meeting as well as the November 15th meeting. I hope you've had a chance to review any suggested edits or changes to either or both of those documents.
Nothing for me.
No changes here.
Nope.
All right, so hearing none, we approve the previous meeting minutes. So going through the agenda for old business, search for a new council. So as we talked about last meeting, John Cunningham is retiring and has expressed no interest in continuing to serve the EDIC in retirement. So it is important for us to have counsel or advisor in general. So I spoke briefly with John, and his suggestion was I asked him for any recommendations, and he had one person that he recommended, and you all may have others. But he suggested putting out an RFP, or I would almost call it a request for information, an RFI, for a legal counsel. So I've drafted something very brief. Let me read it to you, and especially Ruth, who has sort of the most experience of working with John and her legal counsel, may wish to add some language here. So it just says Gloucester EDIC is seeking an attorney to serve as counsel to our corporation. The attorney should be licensed to practice law in Massachusetts and be a Gloucester resident. I don't know if that's a requirement, or I think it would be just maybe a preference or something, but I don't know that it.
I think, in my opinion, it's preferred that it's a Gloucester resident because it's about Gloucester. I mean,
Yep.
Lots of communities hire, like Ropes and Gray, for example, represents a big Boston law firm, represents smaller communities instead of smaller communities having their own counsel on staff. You know, the EDIC is a little bit different, but I just think someone from Gloucester is best.
But we'll just put it as preference. I mean, I'll pass this by purchasing anyways. Expected duties include, and Ruth, this is where you might be able to add some stuff. I've just got 3 bullets: attending EDIC meetings. Second bullet, providing the commission legal or governance advice as required. And 3, legal support services on real estate development or transactional issues as required. you think of something else that, I mean, those are broad areas, but
Well, one of the things that John has talked about is what about all the files he has? So maybe there's some general statement about the keeper of, but should they be kept in the attorney's office, or should they be kept in with Lee and there's other documents that we have
yep,
on city property?
right.
Yeah, I would think that at a minimum, the lawyer would have to keep some files handy. So
No, agreed. So
they're gonna make provision for that.
Okay. Anything else that anybody can think of?
The only thing that occurs to me is that you might want to just throw in a catch-all, you know, such other, I don't know, legal counsel is maybe required.
So other sort of legal duties as requested.
Yeah, counsel perhaps. Yeah.
But in terms of experience, should we be, you know, if we can talk about preferences, you know, you know, it would be ideal if we have someone who's familiar with, you know, real estate law here. You know, a lot of what we're doing is around citing, and you know, I would think that we probably want to have someone who's pretty well versed, right, in what's going on in the area. You know, has worked here, understands issues that we might be confronted with. That
yeah, there are a number of local attorneys who know the zoning ordinance inside and out, know Conservation Commission. So there are a number of people in Gloucester, practicing in Gloucester, who live here,
Yep.
that I think are worthy.
So I'll put in, that's a good suggestion. I'll put in a language, a sentence or two that says, you know, preference given to counsel familiar with zoning in Gloucester and relevant real estate transactional work, something along.
Maybe John has some language that, you know, he would recommend, since, you know.
Maybe municipal issues as well. I
Yeah,
would.
that's a great idea.
I'm not sure it's just a preference either. It might.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're probably right, that, you know, until we've exhausted everyone who we would prefer, let's say it's expected.
No, I agree. I think it's more than being preference. I think it should be expected.
So so in that top part, I mean, you can't see it, but say, you know, we are seeking an attorney with experience in, and then, okay.
Local experience in.
And then per John's suggestion, we'll just ask that, you know, what their billing rate would be, you know, with the hope that it might be, you know, less than what they would charge a private developer, but I don't think we, you know, we can ask for that. So just ask for a brief cover letter, resume, and the billing rate for the organization, and see what we get.
It's a start.
Yep. And again, I think, you know, hopefully we'll get somebody with some relevant experience, but I suspect, and Ruth, you would know better than I, you know, that it's not going to be somebody who's doing a ton of real estate for potential fear that they be conflicted out, or, you know, not be able.
I agree, Tom. And that's always something that will come out of the conversations with whoever might be interested.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're doing this as an RFP, you should make it clear that we may select someone or nobody from whoever applies.
Yeah, so something like the EDIC reserves the right, something.
Okay. Great, thank you for all your input. The next item on the agenda is nominations for additional board members. So a number of you have spoken to folks I've spoken to some folks, probably more than maybe half a dozen potential candidates, some of whom are interested, a number of whom are just too busy at this time. I've also had a conversation, but back in December with Mayor Verga, and ultimately it's his selection, is his discretion and choice. We need somebody to replace Bill Bramhall. That seat is vacant. And then Ruth would like to get off the board. And so seeking someone to replace her very capable shoes. So that said, I mean, I know that both Chris McCarthy is on the line and Stephen Saka, both of whom I think are sort of listening in on what our agenda looks like and what we're talking about and stuff. If either of you are interested in either asking questions or making some sort of statement, I welcome that. Otherwise, I think the next step is for, if you are interested, to draft a letter and submit it to the mayor, probably through Jill Cahill, suggesting that you're interested in serving on the EDIC, and including a resume or relevant experience to serve on this board. Ruth, anything you want to add to what I've just said?
No, I think that a board like this requires people who are in the moment, so to speak, who are available and willing to participate and willing to be creative, and it's all about the future. So I'm pleased that Stephen and Chris are just listening in tonight and that they've expressed some interest.
I have unmuted them if they'd like to speak.
Thanks, Lee.
I kind of second Ruth on that. I think we have, we don't, without an executive director, we basically have an active board, right? So we're all kind of hands on the oars here, and we find our areas of specialty, and sometimes we move into outside the comfort zone, but if that sounds appealing, encourage people to look to participate.
Well, and I told both Chris and Stephen that this particular EDIC board has been extremely busy over the last 3-4 years and got a lot done. And a lot of creative work.
And as it's sort of later in the agenda, but certainly talk about the fact that, I do think that we're on the cusp of going some new directions as it relates to economic development, and some pretty exciting stuff, definitely in the life sciences and biomanufacturing with GMGI, and in that arena that I'll describe later, and then also with the blue economy and a greater role in either the harbor or just blue economy type companies, marine technology companies. So,
Yeah, hi, this is Stephen Saka. Thank you for the opportunity to sit in today. And I just wanted to thank all of you that I have spoke to, several of you, about the EDIC. And I appreciate the time and look forward to the opportunity potentially to participate. And if I do send anything on to Mayor Verga, then I would copy this group so you're aware of that. Thank you.
thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, industrial park status. I really want to turn it over to Taylor, because I really think over the next couple of months, a priority is to get stuff done on the signage. But before I turn it over, I do want to say two sort of new things that are happening, and a number of you are probably already familiar. So one is the Swan Net facility that the Vito Gigoloni and his sons purchased, that they, beginning in, I think, January 1st, signed a multi-year lease with Applied Materials for the use of that facility. So that is now fully leased. I'm not exactly sure what Applied Materials will use that facility for, but that has happened. The other is that Jay McNiff has an agreement with, I can't remember the exact address of the property, but the Butter property. So it's under agreement. Jay is conducting both environmental due diligence. There's some sort of technical and regulatory gaps that he'd like to fill to make sure he understands what the issues are and what needs to be done. And then also evaluating, the sort of reconstruction costs necessary to put it into best use. And assuming that both those things go well, then he would, go forward on the purchase of that. So anyways, it's, I think, exciting news. Again, the goal here is to support companies in Blackburn, such as Applied Materials, and get at as close to full capacity as we can. And it's certainly exciting that Jay has stepped forward and really rigorously evaluating the possibility of putting that property into good use. So we'll see what happens there. Anything else, Sal or Ruth or anybody else on any activity up at Blackburn?
We just helped out Ocean Alliance with the potential site for drone testing at the Gloucester Engineering Building, which was a tough site find because of the roof height. And it's one of the, I don't know if it's the tallest section of a building, at least in Massachusetts, if not New England, for industrial of clear space. I think it's in one section, it's like 50 feet or something like that. But Ocean Alliance is looking for that type of testing space, and Tom and I referred them to the owners of the Gloucester Engineering Building. So Ian was really excited about that referral and that team effort. I'm also working on another confidential potential site find involving a Gloucester company that might involve one of the properties Tom mentioned. But yeah, we're almost at full capacity. Very little space available.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so things are humming.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I do know that the Matheson Gas property was purchased by someone. Apparently there were
Oh,
two
wow.
different, the Matheson
Right.
Gas property, which is at the end of Grove Street, which is kind of a surprise. And what I heard was that it's going to be storage units.
Oh,
Do we know who purchased it or?
I do, but I haven't confirmed it,
Okay.
which I can actually do right now and then let you know.
that would be great. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it was all in the works, I spent a fair bit of time trying to track down somebody from Matheson to find out what the interest of selling it was. So now it makes sense if that had been an active negotiation. So
Sal, I heard that, did Connolly's decide to cease operations, so the fish company?
Yes.
Beginning of the year?
The retail especially, and then I'm not sure what's happening with the rest of it.
Right.
It's an interesting story because there were KPN Lobstermen, which was already in business, but they were the first ones to get on social media immediately when pandemic hit, just about immediately. And then KPN Fisherman's Wharf, they started out down on Commercial Street, and there was such a traffic jam. The city worked with them to figure something different, and then they're the ones with the van down on Rogers Street. and Conley's just didn't get on board with the social media. So that may have nothing to do with him closing the site, but
I don't think it was they have operation in Boston. And
yes,
I've known Steve Connolly Jr. since before I came to Gloucester. You know, I talked to somebody else who's in the business. It's a tough business. Staffing, like everybody else, it's tough. Supply chain, everything else, but they're probably just focusing on their Boston location. But as I mentioned in the paper, they did offer jobs to everyone that was impacted, and Tess from Cape Ann Lobsterman already was, my understanding was that she was leasing the other half of the building. So I don't know if she's going to take the whole thing or what it is, but you know, for entrepreneurs to take advantage of social media, like Ruth said, makes a big impact, especially with COVID, supply chain issues, grocery store issues, trouble getting meat on the shelves in the height of the pandemic, and also more of a focus on where people are getting their food. And local fish is, you know, a great thing to have. So, but it mentioned in the paper that Connolly's is still going to buy local fish from the Gloucester fishermen, which is great. But just like everybody, you know, it's hard to find help, and the seafood industry especially. And it's a tough business that's been impacted significantly for a lot of different reasons besides the pandemic. But if it would be great to see if Tess could make a go of the whole thing. You know, kudos to her. She's doing a great business.
So, and just relative to that, I mean, just broader, Fisherman's Wharf, the Gigalonis have purchased 80 Commercial Street in the Fort. And exactly what those plans, what they'll do with that facility is unclear according to Vito. But again, that's sort of new ownership and you know, proven entrepreneurs, marine business owners. So with that, Taylor, let's turn it over to you, and let's find out what's going on with the signage, with the ideas. I think this is really almost our biggest priority over the next few months is trying to make this happen.
Yeah, so well, I'm going to build a little bit on, well, a couple things, kind of a question and then a statement. I'm kind of working a little bit with two people on Conlin Road to move ahead with some development. And one would be Scott Oram at Wilbur Tracy, and just trying to get him hooked up with someone that he would, because he can build there. He has a buildable lot, but he wants to build to suit someone. I don't think he wants to roll the dice and hope that he can build and then fill it. Although I've mentioned it on several occasions that I think he should build, and then people will fill it because it's going to take him a little while to build. So I'm still kind of moving along with him. And then another one is Paul Wright. So he's at 14 Condolin. He has another buildable lot, and he asked me to maybe help him navigate on how to buy a piece of land that abuts that the city owns. So before I did that, I wanted to make sure that, like, you guys, you know, as a board, approve of me maybe speaking on behalf of the board with city officials to see if we can get that. It's a piece of, you know, city property that's landlocked up. It's adjacent to his property. I think it's adjacent to a residential piece of property, so there might be some zoning changes that have to happen. Things like that. I can try to send it around if you guys approve of us kind of moving forward on that front. So it's the first part. And then the second thing would be the signage. So yeah, we did take a little pause before the holidays.
Hey, Taylor, just a quick question is, are you, so I certainly fully support that, but for the purpose of full transparency, are you playing sort of any consulting role as part of that, or you're just helping this along?
Yeah, no, I've known him for years, and he knows I'm on the EDIC, and he mentioned it in passing like 6 months ago, and I said, if you need any help with the city, if you don't really know which way to go or who to ask about purchasing it, or if you need, a recommendation just to say, yeah, I think this would be a good piece of land for the city to sell, let me know. So he came to me last week and showed me the plot, and I will try to get all that around to you guys so you can look at it, and I'll explain it more.
Okay.
And then we can maybe take a vote next time. I don't think it's crucial, and he's not in a huge hurry, but if it's something we can help someone with, that would be a good thing, and put some money back in the city's pocket at the same time.
Yep,
Because
absolutely.
it is a useless piece of land for them. It's that chunk that was up by Acrely and stuff like that. It's it's stuff we've talked about trying to develop anyway.
Right.
So.
Great.
Yeah. So then signage. It's tricky being part of a bigger committee and lots of opinions and everything. But I think we're moving forward. I want to work with Lauren and we've just had a lot of. The main comments have been to have the signage be more neutral. No one was really hot on that blue and green look. So I'm just going to have Lauren dial it back and do kind of a black and gray motif and try to get one more final mock-up around to everyone. And then, Happy Valley wants to be on both signs. I know Applied Materials, we were working with Peter Leathers, and he's gone. So now we're kind of left with Matt Beach, but he doesn't really think he has the authority to spend the money, but he's willing to find the person who is. So they should want a bunch of signs. Cometeer's been pushing for signs. Finally got a hold and got responses back from people at FW Web and Standard Electric, because that was kind of a tricky thing. You had to navigate up through corporate, and both of them are interested. They're a little slow to get back to you. Haven't heard anything from NOAA. Doesn't seem to be interested, and
I'll
show no interest.
Yeah, I'll check in with Noah, because we should find out where they are and the likelihood that they're going to continue truthfully in building or not.
Right, and I'd like to get a firm no. Like, people that are used to having their sign up there, I'd kind of like to get a firm no from them. So I'm going to call Deb at Custom Seasonings and just say, hey, you have a sign up here now, and we're going to rip those down, and you're not going to be on there. I just want to make sure she's okay with that. And I haven't had any pushback on that front that like anyone's going to be mad that we're taking the signs down. Other than that, there's really no one else up there that I think was on there that cares. And then, as I said, I've said it to some people like Tim and Tom, but one thing we should plan for is that future growth. So whoever goes into the SwanNet building, and then, and then Jeff Romero. So that group's developing across from NOAA. So we want to make sure there's some space on the signs for future people too, to jump on. And then, we have to figure out the order of the signs. Most people have said alphabetical. Again, I will leave it up to them. It's not really, it's not that important to us. We just want it to look nice. So if they all agree that it should be alphabetical or it should be numerical, that's fine. But yeah, I really want to push and get this done. Jay, I have Jay's attention again. If we get enough done now, we'll be ready to go once the ground. And I don't really think the ground's frozen that much, but we'll be ready to go once his guys can dig and get it done, especially before I get busy. Or I'll just have to kind of pass it off to Tim Wood to finish it up. But I think once I get everyone in agreement and we get the sign done, then it'll be kind of in Jay's court, and then getting the signs done. I thought we'd just use Seaside Graphics.
Right.
Just to include them, because they've been part of the process in developing it and they're local. So I'd like to give them the business.
So a couple of questions. So one is, do you need, or would you love, help in any, whether it's reaching out to folks or doing any part of this, or do you feel like at this point, exactly what needs to be done and you're fine doing it?
I'm pretty good. I think if you do know someone at NOAA that you could talk to and just say, hey, you're on the signs now and you're going to be taken off the signs and you're not going to be put on without paying, and just so that they know and they're not surprised.
Right.
That's really it. Other than that, I think we've talked to everyone that's up there and wanted to be, that would be maybe be on the signs.
Right.
I think a lot of it was other people who didn't didn't need to be on there before. There's some people up in Jay's property that we really weren't as worried about because that's not who we're trying to please.
Right.
He would have to put up his own signs, and there's so many people up there that I don't think we can go that route. So I just think that was something we weren't really too worried about at this point.
Okay.
No.
So, and are we going to need, to, once all this is settled, do we need to sort of develop a little one pager that says, here's what it looks like. Here's what it costs. Please sign below, so that we can.
Yeah. We're gonna need to do some of that because people have already asked about payment. Someone wanted to do it on a credit card, and I just didn't really think that was going to be possible. So yeah, those are all things we will have to figure out as far as payment. And going forward, it might be, there might be questions on the management and like who takes the sign down from the company that left and didn't want to pay to take their sign down, and who's in charge of allowing people to put signs up in the future. So there might be some of that,
Right.
and maybe that'll continue to fall on us. But we'll maybe have those guidelines set up at the same time, so we're kind of gatekeepers on those signs. I know on Condon Road, it's just, you just go take one down from someone that is not in business anymore and put your own up. So it's a little bit different. So it'd be good to have some management and maintenance on that. And then I guess the money that.
Crowdsourced signage.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So I'll keep you posted.
So, questions from other folks? Questions? So do you want to give a little timetable here, both either for your benefit or our benefit in terms of, sort of decision points or the completion of these things?
Yeah, so I'll reach out to Lauren and find out how soon she could do a mock-up with the more neutral color tones, and then I'm gonna send that back out to everyone. So really I'd say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I just want a definitive answer from who the participants are, and hopefully I can push Jay for a price at that point. And we might just have to set a price that we know is gonna cover the bill. And then if it goes, I wasn't hesitant to have the EDIC participate and put some money in because I think it'll also give us that gatekeeper status. And then as other people, we might recoup that money as other people pay in, so as other signs go up, be like, yeah, you can put a sign up, it's $3,000. And then,
Right.
but I don't know how that's I don't know how that functions. So I do need to get a firmer price. I mean, I kind of made up some prices, but I don't know how solid they are. And we need to figure out with CPET graphics, exactly what that would look like going forward.
So,
Yeah, and-
go ahead, Ruth.
I was going to say, once you get to that place, Taylor, like we should have a meeting just to discuss how that would happen, the billing and collecting the money and.
Yep. Yeah,
Well,
100%. Definitely. So maybe before the next meeting, I will come up with what I think are some issues, and then we can grapple with that and try to get as a group, try to make some sense of who and how we think we want it managed going forward. Because it hasn't come up yet, but it's going to. So
Right.
I think it would be good to get ahead of it. Just like, presenting the design instead of asking everyone we wanted signs and all of a sudden we get a bunch of opinions. I think if we get ahead of it and just say this is how things are going to operate,
So
we're better off.
And so this is a little premature, but I think we should, when we have that meeting or talk about it, is it reasonable to say, here's the, capital costs now, and then we would like, some very reasonable annual fee that would go to the EDIC, who then would be responsible for the A, B, and, multiple management responsibilities.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what people's reaction would be to that, but.
We'll find out, and I think I think it's better to get ahead of it and say, yes, you are going to, yes, there's going to be a nominal annual fee and this is what it's going to include. And if they push back, then that's fine. We can say, okay, then once this project's done, then you guys are kind of on your own to collectively manage it or manage, your own side or something like that. So That's all, but at least we'll have an answer.
So just to be clear on my standpoint, so do we want to have that conversation then that you just described about sort of issues and try to tighten up what the final sort of one page will be at our next meeting? Or would you expect that we can do that before then?
No, I think we should have it at the next meeting, and I will be able to, by then, I think I'll be able to identify some talking points, and I can send that around. So we have, like, hey, here's what I think some issues are going to be, and we'll, as a group, we'll come up with solutions.
Sounds great. Great.
Okay.
All right. And I'll follow up with Noah, and don't hesitate to reach out to me if there's anything that I can do, or and Sal
Okay.
probably has his, is probably in closest contact to many of the folks up in the industrial park. So
I think we have a raised hand from Chris McCarthy. Chris?
Yes, can you hear me?
yeah,
Yes.
You can. It's Chris McCarthy. I live on Bray Street in Gloucester. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I been building, developing land in Gloucester for probably 30 to 35 years. Almost exclusively residential, a lot of infill lots. Most of the land that I've developed, I've purchased probably 85%. A lot of it needing permits, whether it's through conservation, Board of Appeals, planning board. Been doing the same thing for a long period of time. I'd say my strength, if anything, and Ruth could tell you, is probably zoning, and also just being able to get permits. And something, I'm one of the owners down on the Eastern Ave self-storage, and so I think if the board thinks that I might be able to help, and the mayor thinks that I might be able to help the EDIC continue with their mission, I'd gladly like to join if you guys thought that would be helpful. That's all.
Thanks, Chris.
thank you, Chris. That's great. Yeah, and I would, as I said earlier, encourage you to write a letter. I mean, it
Sure.
can be an email to the mayor and/or Jill Cahill, and ask that you be on EDIC and include a resume, brief resume or bio.
Gotcha. I can do that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. So Taylor, back to you. Just anything else at Conlin Road? You already mentioned some activity, but anything else going on over there that we should know? And/or it looks like you're busy.
Talking to us.
He's muted.
Hey, why don't we, I think he
Okay.
might be on the phone with something else. Why don't we jump ahead? Hey,
No,
Mike.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to get on my computer, but I was going to screw up my phone. No, nothing major going on. I'll keep you posted if anything new happens on Conlin. And it sounds like Sal's taking care of Blackburn besides the signage stuff. So that's it. Just trying to keep things being developed.
Yeah.
That's all. I like building.
Sounds good. Mike, do you want to talk about the CADA on demand?
Yeah, it's kind of a quick update regarding the on-demand project. Actually, Felicia sends her regards and apologies. She's traveling back from Florida right now, so she's not able to participate. She did let us know, though, that they've done just under 1,600 trips in December, so which is a little bit lower than normal, but that's pretty impressive that they've that we're up to that to this level. We had on the sponsorship side, we actually had a meeting December 9th over at Addison Gilbert. Well, actually, no, that was actually a Zoom meeting. I just thought I was over there. I actually like going over there and looking at the art in their conference rooms and their executive offices. They've got like some amazing Gloucester artists, by the way. So if you can ever get a meeting over there, bring a mask. Anyway, So
Or
we had,
dead stick.
stay out of the examination rooms though, just look at the art. So we actually had our meeting with their new president, new vice president. They're very keen on working with us. I think that was kind of the main takeaway. Actually, earlier this month, they actually put out a call for requests for grant proposals. They have $100,000 of grants that they're giving out as part of their community development, primarily around services, right? Service organizations that are complementary to their whole community development mission. Felicia indicated that she actually submitted a proposal. One of the things that we're looking to do is to see, and they seem quite interested in our meeting, was to see how they could use CADA on demand more. They are moving people around. They also have to guarantee, that people are getting back home safely or to the a Beth Israel Leahy facility safely. So there's some interest going on right there, and I think Felicia made the deadline, which considering some other challenges she's been up against, that was pretty impressive, and we'll hear back on that. I think in general, though, the one other theme of these meetings, at the chamber back in November, and then with Addison Gilbert, is trying to promote the CADA on demand service. It really aligns well with a lot of what we're hearing. I think Ken over at the chamber is very focused on the original intent, which is moving people to and from the train stations. Obviously, we're all very interested in that, but we're also seeing that Gloucester employers are also seeing a benefit from having CADA on demand for servicing people who don't have cars, right? Who need to work and want to get to work, but aren't car owners. So I think that's actually the uptake on that looks like that's been pretty strong. We talked to, I spoke with Joey over at GMGI as part of this initiative to build up more awareness of the service. He's interested in doing a podcast with us, his Sunday podcast. So we have to figure out who we want to send over and have brief, like, I don't know. I think it's like 50,000 people that get his emails every day. So it's that could be another way to drive some demand. And then he's also ready to take any kind of press release that we want to drop as well. So I think those are kind of the high points of what's going on. I think some interesting stats came out at our meeting back in November, though, and I missed the December meeting, and I'm not sure, maybe Felicia mentioned those if she had attended the December board meeting, but it sounds like we're probably like 50% of the people or more who try the CADA on demand service become repeat riders. And she thought it might be like closer to 70% of people who take it once, they begin to use it more frequently after that. So I think it's a really interesting kind of adoption rate that can only go up, and it's just a really good flexible service. So good trend lines.
Thanks, Mike. That's great. In my mind, our role, EDIC role going forward, Felicia and CADA have proved herself to be a really great project manager and doing a really good job on this. Our role going forward is primarily to sort of continue to promote, but help them get more sponsorships, right? So that they can get to a point where they're demonstrating that this is if it's not 100%, self-sufficient model, it's a reason,
Getting there, right?
50% or 70% of the costs are covered by these sponsorship. Am I right that that's sort of our role going forward?
Yeah, I think that's what it's kind of arrived at. I sense I've never really spoken with Felicia about this, but I sense that she and Kate appreciate that we're out there asking people for money. We're out there asking people to become sponsors. I don't know that, I mean, she's extremely busy. She's got a lot going on over there. So I think she appreciates that, but I think it's really just taking more of a cheerleader role, right? If we can continue to build up that self-sufficiency, from sponsors as well as ridership, that's going to bode well for them over the long haul, and the benefits of the service here in Gloucester.
Right.
We've only thought of that, sir, on-demand service for jobs and transportation, but I think I told you before, just sit up at Market Basket for, a half an hour and just watch the people, rather than take cabs, which they used to do, they're getting the on-demand bus. And I just think it's a wonderful thing that's happened.
Yeah, and I don't know that this is like,
they would be sponsors. I don't know that.
yeah, and I've talked to them before, and it's kind of a corporate decision. And frankly, I didn't kind of pursue it. I didn't get a lot of positive feedback or even direction from the managers at Market Basket. However, and Stop and Shop. However, they're also dealing with COVID, and they're dealing with the kinds of challenges that we're all looking at, trying to keep a business running in these days. But I think I would imagine it would be beneficial for their for their employees. There's always seemed to be an on-demand bus up there when I'm up there, and then it's also Addison Gilbert. Like I've been over there. It seems like every time I go up for a meeting, I see an on-demand, a Cato on-demand, van pulling in here. So I don't know if, it's one of the top destinations, right?
But I think, Mike, if you can have a conversation with Felicia to understand, sort of what are the financial needs for next year, right? I mean, I think in total, we got them to the $20,000 or $25,000 sort of level this year.
Yeah, and we have the pilot is a 1-year pilot, so we're coming back up on renewal time. If we can reach out and see if we can get folks to step back up at the same amount or a greater amount.
Right. So if we can just get from Felicia an idea of what the goal would be, financial goal, and then we can, play a continued role in helping to go back to those same people or finding more sponsorship money per her. I mean, I remember that from the original submittal or whatever is the goal would be to continue to increase revenue, increase sponsorship.
Right, from 10% to 20% in year 2. I think that some of the economics have changed in terms of grant money and more money for transportation, public transportation, federal level, state level, and on down. So I think that it's good to get some clarity on that, Tom, and see what we have to do.
Okay. Great. So next up, continuation of EDIC board discussion, economic development sites. So a couple of things. So one is, and I actually put together some notes, so I apologize for reading them. We had a great meeting on December 14th at GMGI. So, and this is on sort of the expansion of life science biomanufacturing in Gloucester. So it was hosted by GMGI. The presentations were by Chris Bolzan, the executive director at GMGI, and Bill Kane, who's on the board, who's the vice president of Biomed Realty, one of the largest life science realty companies in the US. And the topic was what's going on in the life science sector in the Boston area. What has changed? Why is it so flush with capital? Why is everybody trying to madly develop? And then in sync with the buzz that's been created by GMGI due to the cutting edge research it's doing, due to the Biotech Academy that it has developed, And due to a survey that it conducted both for promotional purposes, but also to elevate the awareness of Gloucester. EDIC provided the list of potential developers, brokers, landowners, commercial lenders. We were supposed to, when I got there, it was going to be in their conference room because they only heard from about 8 or 9 people, but I think there was about 30 people ultimately that were there. And I talked to Chris a few days ago, and the great news, which I did not expect, is there's been great follow-up. People have followed up with her, people have followed up directly with Bill Kane, or Kevin Olson, who's with a life science, is a broker with a life science development company. All really positive regarding our goal of making this the development community in Gloucester aware of the potential for building out sites, developing brownfields, leasing any buildings in the 25 to 50,000 square foot, which is large by Gloucester standards for sure. She also made me aware, and she's certainly very excited about, and I think this gives us, if Stephen and Chris, I think, are still on the line, an area that the EDIC can really play in the next literally 5 years, is trying to put sites into play in Gloucester. So GMGI is participating with Northeastern, Rhode Island, and Maine in a program called the EDA Build Back Better Program Regional Challenge, which is a $1 billion program that aims to boost economic recovery from the pandemic and rebuild American communities, including those grappling with decades of disinvestment. They submitted a grant application. There were 529 applications to the EDA, the Economic Development Authority. 60 were chosen as finalists, and luckily we are one of those finalists. Chris is one of the 3 coalition leaders that are leading sort of now. They're still putting together sort of the final plan that's due in, I think it's in February. There's only one other competitor in New England. It's a bid from DECA up in New Hampshire, the Dean Kamen technology firm, and it's just New Hampshire. So the positives are that this, if we are chosen, could be as much as $100 million for this effort across, Maine, Mass, and Rhode Island. The spotlight is already on Gloucester, playing this prominent role because of the Biotech Academy and the workforce training, as well as sort of this new cutting edge, marine research they're doing. The likely role for Gloucester in this coalition would be mentoring, workforce development, and then sort of small scale piloting. So these would be smaller facilities that would pilot, biomanufacture new life science drugs, products before they would then scale up. The way it's likely to, the proposal is likely that the North Shore Innoventures in Beverly would be sort of, they would play the role of the incubator of new businesses that would be sort of larger scale. So the extraordinary, if we are to get this, and certainly there's all positive stuff because of the visibility that this is raising and the more visibility that we'll see in the next month, is that it would literally be 5 years of sort of major runway funding. So at this life science meeting in December, Sam Park, the developer for the Market Basket, Crossing Mall, talked about the challenge of building something and risk management, and that you really needed, to have a longer view for funding than just a year or two, or somebody moves out and suddenly you've built a specific type of facility and now you're out of luck or something. I mean, the amount of money that we're talking and the 5-year plan, I think would be extraordinary for this community as well as Beverly, in terms of minimizing risk developers and really greasing the skids for, development of industrial properties. So it's a great opportunity to build capacity, and it gives us some time. We know that there's, and we've talked about in the past, there's not a lot of inventory of sites here in Gloucester right now, but this could be great in terms of, showing us the path forward, and getting everybody on board to develop these sites more. So the next steps for the EDIC on this is we'll probably participate a little bit on some promotional stuff as part of the final submittal. The federal government, the EDA, wants to see, post people talk about Build Back Better, talk about, all the great things that are going to happen. And so we would participate in some of those, and then we would also provide a letter of support, I'm sure, along with the city for this proposal. So great news. It looks like Chris has his hand up if you want to speak, or if Lee, you could allow Chris to say something. Unless that's an old hands up.
You should still be able to speak.
Oh, that was an old thing, but I do have a question. If someone were to be on the board of directors and they planned on or wanted to, in the near future, develop some commercial or industrial land, how does someone work around or conflict of interest, and how does that generally work, I would ask?
Well, we need a legal counsel to advise you on that. But my understanding, based on conversations and going through the ethics training that we all have to go through, is that, as long as you are fully transparent about what is happening and the roles that you're playing, and you're not using, your role on the EDIC to some advantage or whatever, but not just, but to some financial advantage, that it's fine. Anybody else want to weigh in there?
Oh, I think you said it perfectly.
So it shouldn't be an impediment.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So anyway, so all good. We'll work on that and cross our fingers. Other positive news
before you switch gears there, what are some of the dates or milestones that in terms of the initiative you just described?
So I don't know, other than she wanted a letter of support. She wants everything in by February 15th, which should be fine, obviously. And then I can't remember, she told me, but when the final application is due, I think it's the end of February. And I would think that even though obviously these are big proposals, there'll be a relatively quick turnaround. So hopefully we would know by early summer.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Tom, I have to say that, well, I've said this before to the EDIC, that the EDIC needs to be informed about Gloucester zoning, no matter what the zoning is, residential, because when companies are looking to locate here, they want to know they have a place to live. And I want all of you as individuals, you all live all over Gloucester, is to be familiar with the zoning amendments that are being proposed. It was a 1.5 years worth of work the planning board did. And the recommendations are right now before planning and development. It's not the public hearing stage. but they're meeting again tomorrow at 5:30. The first time they were reviewing it was 2 weeks ago. And they're dedicating a lot of time, and there will be some more meetings. So I just hope, and if any of you have questions about it individually, like call me or call Chris, and we'll just talk to you and give you an understanding of it doesn't mean that we'll have 1,000 new units in 2 years. It doesn't mean that. It's about correcting some things that were rezoned and zoning changes that were done 30 years ago. You can now really see the impact of those changes on adding housing units. So I just wanted to remind you all about that, and I'm sure you read about it, but you know, as an EDIC member, all housing is good housing. Somebody has a project going.
This is back to building. Ruth, what's your impression of the of these changes that are being proposed at this point?
I think the fear on some people's part is that this will inundate us with housing units and quote unquote development, you know, the big bad development. But no, it's going to happen as incremental changes. But the changes are what they're doing is correcting things that were done 30 years ago that really impacted on people's ability to add a unit in their home, put an addition on for their aging parent or whatever, but just housing units. You know, the old fashioned way is when your daughter got married, you created a little apartment in your big house. And it just got really, really difficult to do that. And there are situations where you can go to the Board of Appeals and ask for a variance, which almost always get granted. But why have someone have to spend $5,000 to $10,000 to get there with an attorney and an architect? And so it's an important thing that Gloucester's doing right now, the planning board, but it has to be approved by the city council. And you know, they're subject to hearing from everyone who's opposed as opposed to the people who are unopposed.
Well put.
I actually did read the, and it was nice. I don't think Gordon Baird is in favor of the proposed changes, but it was a nice article by him, you know, sort of suggesting how good and clear, how good the meeting was, and it
was brilliant. It was brilliantly
informative and well managed and thoughtful and transparent.
Well, it was not a public hearing, but he allowed the public to ask questions.
Quick news on some other economic development fronts, of which we have some relevance. So on the blue economy, the Gloucester Maritime Station got $200,000 through ARPA money, and that will be used over the next 2 years, essentially, to hire a staff person to lead that effort. Katie Call, who's extraordinary woman, you know, can't do it all over there. She has a lot of different responsibilities. So that's good news. If you need a competent point person to help, even if it's not an executive director, but to manage projects and keep momentum going and build coalitions. So good news on that front. I also had a good meeting with or call with Senator Tarr, and this might be relevant, Taylor, to you. So, you know, he's sort of, or I've heard through the grapevine, his promotion of that west side property, right? The couple hundred acres that could or may exist between School Street in Manchester and 133. Mike Delasio and I did hike that, had a delightful day and hike. There's a lot of granite. There's a lot of watershed.
A lot of elevation changes too, right?
Yeah.
And you found your way out?
We did. The beauty of All Trails app to help guide us. But Senator Tarr was very supportive of two things that we've talked about as sort of priority strategies, which is one, brownfields, looking at, and I don't think we can take any credit here, but looking at the Matheson property, looking at the Butter property, looking at Linsky's, and trying to get these back into, economic use. And he was very supportive of that as good use of our time and resources, and probably, a more cost-effective approach. The other thing that he was very supportive of is looking at our industrial parks, and this is really more relevant to Condon Road, and are there adjacent properties that can be developed, rather than a big brand new industrial park. And he seemed to think that there may be some monies available. I don't know whether this is more simply on the feasibility study side, but there may be some monies available to the city to help some of that development proceed. So anyways, it was a good meeting, and good for him to sort of support our sort of strategies going forward. And I think that does it for me. Other business, other thoughts, ideas, work.
You know how to go to a public meeting, right? So if you wanted to listen in to planning and development tomorrow night, if you don't know how to do it, just call me. The city council is taking it up on January 25th.
So tomorrow they're talking, planning development's talking about the new zoning stuff.
Yeah, for the second time.
Okay.
It's before them. Because I think what's happening is that those questions that were asked are going to be answered there. 5:30.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get on.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to try to listen in. Anything else? Jerry, anything on the energy front, or it's still sort of evolving, trying to figure out what's available for money and other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's some, not really much. Well, there's a little bit of energy money in the infrastructure bill. But it's really at the edges, I think, of things that might concern us. There's some money for EV charging in communities, however that's defined. I mean, the emphasis is on public highways, but there may be some money in communities aside schools and parks and places like that. What else? There's some money for middle mile broadband, which is something we talked about a while back. But that, I mean, all I've been able to do so far is skim the summary, which itself is 129 pages. So it's a gargantuan bill. But what I took from that is that they're really aiming at areas that are totally unserved at this point. So that would be mostly rural. What else? There's more money for hazardous waste super funds and brownfields. There's some school bus money.
If you have a chance, and I mean, or if you can point me towards the brownfields monies, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, well, I'll send you the short link and the long link.
Yeah, because I'm really looking forward to reading 120 pages as a summary.
Yeah, well, there's
He wants the money and he wants it fast, Jerry.
I'm sorry?
He wants the money and he wants it fast.
It's gonna have to read even faster. What else? There's a low E ferry pilot. I mean, it's a real grab bag of stuff. So perhaps the big bill, if it ever passes, would have something more. I mean, on the state level, there is lots of energy efficiency money available. It's mostly for electrification. I would say that the biggest opportunity that might interest us is probably new construction, both commercial and residential. There'd be a lot of interest in supporting and electrified, and by electrified, I mean heating with electric air source heat pumps.
Right.
So that may be the biggest opportunity I see right now in the energy field. With it's basically ratepayer money that's distributed by the or overseen by the utilities.
Yeah. Hey, Sal, do you know, is anybody from the city or do you have a consultant or something that you use that goes through these sorts of things and looks for what the city might want to apply for?
Grants department.
So it depends on the program. We just worked closely with a consultant on our local rapid recovery plan and are working on submitting our expression of interest for the top 5 projects to the state through our downtown local rapid recovery plan. So we worked with a consultant. We also work closely with MAPC on applications to the EDA that we did for some work recently on flood mitigation project that the planning department was involved in, and you know, those, and also working with the governor's EOHED folks on opportunities that come up. We work closely with the MOBD regional director on those notifications as well. Some of the challenges, as you know, is some projects require a significant match. And so when it is a significant monetary match, we need to look for those in the budget, and sometimes they could be in the millions of dollars, and get permission from council before we apply. So it's a little of everything. And we try to stay on top of it, also working with outside partners that we happen to know are applying for grants, and we usually get asked for letters of support from the mayor, and we try to get those for those Gloucester nonprofits that may be applying for grants.
Yeah, there is flood mitigation money. This may be something you're already aware of, but in the infrastructure bill, looks like there's several flavors of it. So I'll send you the summary. It's not exactly indexed, but if you scroll through it fast, you can.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I'm especially interested in the brownfields, and you know, it'd be nice if that's going to be an area of focus that we can offer some access to money.
Right.
All right. Anybody else? Any thoughts, questions?
Let me just tell you that the Gloucester 400 is very proud that it'll be opening its Main Street office in the next 10 days. The KPN Savings Bank is letting us use their space on Main Street, and we're pretty excited about it.
That's awesome.
We'll be there for a little over 2 years.
Great stuff. All right, our next meeting, Lee, do you know what the date of our next meeting is?
Are we looking at the second or third or third Tuesday of the month?
Third Tuesday, right?
The
Third
15th.
Tuesday would be the 15th of February.
So it's likely to be in person. I mean, it's likely to be remote, and certainly I think we'll give status reports on all of the stuff we covered today, but the focus is on the signage. If we are able to be in person, then my friend Jim Curtis, the licensed site professional engineer, who's also used by Jay McNiff, will be at the meeting. He's not really interested in doing a remote presentation, and I don't blame him. So whenever our next meeting is in person, he'll be here for that, to talk about brownfield development and how to look at contaminated properties and stuff. So anyways, February 15th, next meeting. So do I have a motion to terminate this meeting?
So moved.
Second. All right, Lee, we don't need to do a final roll call or anything, do we?
No.
Okay. Great. We'll have a nice night and good rest of the week.
You too.
See you guys.
But-
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Thank you.